Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the story of one of history's most fascinating and, frankly, contradictory rulers, Emperor Ashoka. He's a man whose legacy is a total puzzle, written in both stone and blood.
So, who was this guy really? Was he Dhammashoka, Ashoka the Pious, a benevolent Buddhist king who preached peace and nonviolence? Or was he Chandashoka, Ashoka the Cruel, a ruthless tyrant who literally slaughtered his own family to get to the throne? To get a handle on the man, you've got to understand both of these identities.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning of his reign, a time that was defined by just shocking ambition and brutality. This is where he earned his first and, pretty terrifying, nickname.
So you have to understand, Ashoka wasn't the chosen heir, not by a long shot. His dad, the emperor, wanted his oldest son, Susima, to take over. But Ashoka, who already had a reputation as a ruthless governor, saw an opening. When his father got sick, he raced to the capital. He grabbed the throne, and when his brother Susima showed up to claim what was rightfully his, Ashoka had him killed in the most horrific way you can imagine. This kicked off a brutal 4-year civil war where Ashoka allegedly hunted down and executed pretty much all of his brothers, just to make sure no one could challenge him.
And it was this vicious power grab that earned him the title Chandashoka, Ashoka the Cruel. But his brutality wasn't just for political rivals. Oh no, the stories from this period are the stuff of nightmares, detailing a level of personal sadism that went way beyond just securing his power.
I mean, these accounts paint a horrifying picture. Sources talk about these elaborate torture chambers, so infamous they became known as Ashoka's Hell. He reportedly hired an executioner who was famous for his cruelty and would personally spend hours just watching prisoners be tortured and murdered. He supposedly enjoyed it like it was a show. His reign of terror was just absolute.
For 8 years, this is the guy in charge, Chandra Ashoka, ruling with an iron fist, expanding his empire. But one war, the invasion of the kingdom of Kalinga, would supposedly change him forever.
The conquest of Kalinga wasn't a battle. It was a complete and utter massacre. Ashoka's army was just devastatingly effective. An estimated 100,000 people were killed on the battlefield alone.
But the devastation didn't stop there. Another 150,000 were captured, enslaved, or driven from their homes. The entire kingdom of Kalinga was just destroyed.
And according to Ashoka's own inscriptions, carved in stone for all to see, surveying this carnage, it broke him. For the first time, this man who murdered his own family supposedly felt overwhelming remorse. He swore off violence, swore off conquest, and dedicated the rest of his life to a completely new path.
And this is the moment that marks the death of Chandashoka and the birth of Dhammashoka, Ashoka the Pious. He converted to Buddhism and launched this massive campaign to rule not by the sword, but by Dhamma, basically a moral code of nonviolence, tolerance, and respect. He went on this huge pilgrimage to all the most sacred sites in Buddhism, and everywhere he went, he put up these massive stone pillars, carving his new philosophy of nonviolence and justice right onto them for all of his subjects to see.
And this wasn't just talk, He created an entirely new class of government officials, the Dharma Mahamatras, or officers of Dhamma. Their whole job was to travel the empire, spread his moral teachings, make sure things were fair, and basically act as a direct line of communication between the people and him.
It's an incredible story of redemption, right? A monster who becomes a saint. But a lot of historians are asking, was this change of heart actually real, or was it one of the most brilliant political rebranding campaigns in all of history?
Because you see, not all the historical sources agree with this redemption story. When we look a little closer, some major cracks start to appear in the image of the peaceful emperor, and a very, very different story starts to emerge.
Historians like A.L. Basham argue that Ashoka's nonviolence was pretty pragmatic. Think of it this way. He was like a father to his empire, caring and peaceful, sure, but he was more than willing to use force to crush rebellions or defend his borders. Peace was the goal, but never at the cost of his own power.
Now, the most compelling evidence that this was all just propaganda lies in the geography of his message. Those famous edicts, the ones expressing all that deep regret over Kalinga, they're mostly found in the heart of his empire. But out on the border regions, areas still controlled by military might, those edicts, they don't mention any regret at all, which kind of suggests the whole transformation story was a carefully targeted piece of political messaging.
But maybe the most shocking evidence against the story of Dhammashoka comes from other historical sources that describe horrific acts of violence and religious persecution that took place after his supposed transformation.
These accounts are just staggering. One tells of Ashoka ordering the execution of 18,000 people from a rival religious sect, all because of a drawing of the Buddha that he found offensive. Another one describes a follower of the Jain faith making a similar drawing. Ashoka's response? He had the man and his entire family burned alive in their own home. He then allegedly put out a decree offering a silver coin for the severed head of any Jain. This brutal campaign only stopped when his own brother was mistakenly killed for being one.
So, how do we make sense of this? A man who preached nonviolence but ordered massacres. A guy who promoted religious tolerance but persecuted other faiths. We're left trying to reconcile two completely different versions of the exact same emperor.
Well, if you look at his whole 38-year reign, his time as the ruthless Chand Ashoka was actually pretty short. For 3 decades, he ruled as the pious Ashoka. And here's the key takeaway. Whatever he truly believed in his heart, his public philosophy of Dhamma worked. It was this unifying idea that helped him govern a massive, diverse empire and keep it stable for over 30 years, and that is a remarkable political achievement.
So, we are left with the ultimate question. Was Ashoka a sinner who found redemption and truly changed his ways? Or was he a master strategist who realized that after you conquer an empire with a sword, the only way to actually rule it is with a powerful idea? A politician so brilliant, he crafted a legacy that has puzzled us for over 2,000 years. What do you think?